Hello there. This
Hi.
is Cheryl Sulski, and we're going to talk about South African life and life here. Tell me, first of all, how did you come to be here?
Well, when my husband decided it was time to go, that's what we did. I never thought in my wildest dreams I'd ever land up living in America, but it's almost 12 years and we're here.
I didn't ask him this, but how did you two meet?
A friend introduced us.
Oh, and
Yeah, it took a little time and then we decided, okay, we're ready to get settled down, and we did. Engaged, married, 2 kids, everything in just over 2 years. So, yeah.
what were some memorable things that you can remember about life in South Africa?
Well, I did not grow up in South Africa. I grew up in Namibia, which was known as Southwest Africa in those days. And then when I was about 8 or 9 years old, my family moved from Namibia to South Africa, to Cape Town, because a lot of family pressure, but we needed to be in a Jewish environment. My parents and relatives obviously wanted us, to be with a family in a Jewish environment. So going from a Catholic school, I went to a Jewish day school, and that was kind of where I started.
Wow, that's amazing. Can you think of some events that influenced you and your husband's decision to go?
Well, being in the line of work that my husband was in, farming, it was becoming extremely dangerous to be farming. A lot of farm violence, farm killings. We felt very strongly, being slightly older parents, we were very worried about my children's future, because my brothers had already moved to America a long, long time ago. We were losing our support system in South Africa, and I didn't want my kids, even though I felt horrible about the situation, I didn't want my kids, my young children, to feel responsible for a situation that they did not create. And we felt that we needed to get them to a place of safety. My husband was traveling long distances, long hours to the ranch every day. I was living alone, all day long, from early in the morning till late at night, with 2 young children, and the stress on our family was enormous.
Now, where did your brothers move when they came here?
They went straight to California.
And what possessed them to do that?
Well, I have 2 younger brothers. The one immediately younger than me had finished his compulsory 2 years army service in South Africa, and he was trying to get himself set up in business, but because he was in the infantry, he kept getting called up, to do work, to do camps and reserve duty and that, and he could never ever settle down. And one day he decided this wasn't what he wanted to fight for, just going around for no reason killing people. And so he took a year off, traveled around, landed up in Los Angeles, and has been there for the last probably 25 years, even longer. And then my younger brother also had to finish his compulsory military service, did his time, and 3 days later, as soon as he'd done his 2 years, got on the plane and joined my other brother in America. So I was basically in South Africa. We had somebody to take care of my parents, although we did travel up and down a lot. And then eventually, when our papers came through, when we were ready to go, my mom had already moved here, and that was time to move.
Okay. What was the scene like? Can you remember back on when you guys were actually physically ready to move, ready to leave?
Well, I kind of knew, I'd moved a lot I've lived in a lot of different places, and I was kind of looking forward to this adventure. I wanted to be near my family. I was a little intimidated by just the sheer enormity of what immigration really meant. It doesn't hit you until you see your container. I mean, it was fun, like taking things with all our familiar stuff, and we had the most incredible moving company. And this guy that was helping us with our move was very experienced in what he was doing. And he told us exactly how many boxes of chutney or South African things we could take, and we filled up that container down to till there was no more oxygen left in there. It was quite an experience. One of my friends actually was helping me sort of fix up cupboards. We lived in a big house, so we had a lot of stuff, and we were getting rid of stuff, and she looked at me, and one of the words of wisdom she said to me was, never let your possessions possess you. And as I was saying, well, take this, I won't need it, take that, I won't need it, I was just giving stuff away. And it was actually quite exciting, because I knew when I came here I could start all over again, and it was fun.
Great.
It was fun.
Were there any other places that your family had considered moving to other than Dallas once you decided to leave?
Well, when we were about to leave, it was just after 9/11, and we were kind of thinking maybe California, maybe Florida, but we really needed to be here because Cyril's mom was moving as well, and we tried to keep the family in one place. And one of the unfortunate things that happened was the South African rand just tanked dramatically, like 30%, in that short space of time between 9/11 and the time that we left. So that kind of forced us to refocus on where we could actually live, because when you're living on a South African income, it's really bad. It was about 11.5 rand to the dollar at that time. So Dallas was probably the most affordable option, or was really the only one at the time.
Compared to LA, I'd say so.
And LA and the East Coast were absolutely prohibitive
yes,
on South African money, yeah.
Well, along that line, in what ways were family and or friends helpful to you when you arrived?
It was very interesting. We had some very interesting reactions. A lot of people kind of thought like, you're not going to make it, and they didn't wish us well. A lot of South Africans are in what we call golden handcuffs. A lot of people got really good jobs, high positions. They have family commitments and that, and it's not that easy to leave. A lot of our friends can afford to leave, but they don't want to leave their families behind. There are a lot of considerations, especially when you come to America. If you've got elderly parents, getting medical insurance, so there's so many factors. It was interesting with the kids. My younger son, his kids thought this was just a big adventure, and going to America was like going to Disneyland, and that was their perception of America. It was a little harder for my other son. The kids weren't quite as empathetic. That was quite interesting. It's such a hot topic, immigration in South Africa. A lot of people feel you run because you're a coward. People don't always understand the reasons why you have to leave, and it's a very mixed reaction. Some people call us cowards. Some people say we did the right thing.
Okay. What were your personal first impressions of Dallas, Texas, the city itself? Not the people, but the city.
I'd been to America several times before and traveled around quite a bit. I'd only been to Dallas once, was in August. It was 104 degrees that one day. I came in the shade. A friend picked me up from the airport with no air conditioning in her car, and I thought I was going to die. I was just not, I thought this can't be happening. And so it was just a quick visit, was a stopover on the way to somewhere else, and that was all I'd seen of Dallas. And then we came back, just before we actually immigrated, we came back to have a look at the school, look at where we could possibly live. And it wasn't really, it was just a lot of things that were amazing with the size of the houses and the cars, and that it's just so big and spread out, and there's just so much of everything. But it's not really that different to living in Johannesburg. Yeah, the lifestyle is pretty similar. Yeah.
What kind of work did you do back home, and what did you do here first, and then how did you get into what you're doing now? Tell us about that.
I've always been in banking and finance. I worked in the life insurance, pensions, investments. That's what I've done. I've worked in securities, treasury, all that kind of stuff, estates, trust companies. And then when I got married, I stopped working to bring up the kids, and obviously because my husband was traveling so much, somebody had to be around. And then when I came to Dallas, I had no idea what I was going to do, and this job at Akiba just kind of fell into my lap. I was in the right place at the right time. I never thought I'd ever be in a classroom, but there I am.
Speaking of classroom, I asked your husband about your son's college experiences, but did you yourself have to take any classes, or did you choose to take anything, either in university or something locally here?
It's ongoing. Part of working in a school, professional development is definitely something you have to keep. You're required to do a certain amount of hours every year, and I'm pretty diligent about that.
Where do you take it from?
Well, some of them are done through the Jewish Federation. I've done one at Brookhaven College. At Shelton School, there is so much available that you can really pick and choose what you want to do. There's always something available.
What do you feel about, in a nutshell, from what you've seen of the education system here?
It's very different. South African education, I think, is more based on the British system. I have a few reservations about a lot of things. I just think the pressure sometimes is just overwhelming, and working with children, I think sometimes we're robbing children of their childhood. But I also do realize that it's such a competitive environment, and we have to get these kids prepared for what's to come. And I just do my job as, with as much compassion and understanding of these children. There are a lot of issues with learning, a lot of issues with kids who just really struggle, but there's, on the other hand, there's just so much support, and there's so many resources available, which is quite overwhelming. So it's been quite an experience for me just to see what can really be done.
Wonderful. How welcoming in general did you find the community here as a new immigrant?
Oh, the Dallas community's been incredible. I mean, it was serious culture shock when I came here. I mean, South Africa, we tend to be a little insular. This is quite a melting pot. Everybody's coming from somewhere else. But in general, as I say, I have traveled around in different places in America, and Dallas was definitely by far the most welcoming community.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Very good to know. What else have you become involved with, or have you, as far as the Jewish community here? Anything else?
Well, just working in a Jewish day school, in a Jewish environment, is pretty much a full-time job. And I also teach at Tiferet, a religious school. The one thing that I did notice was the difference in religious affiliation over here, because in the community where we lived in South Africa, kind of everybody was, it was just one big unit, and everybody was kind of on the same level. It doesn't matter whether you kept kosher or whatever, the education was pretty standardized. Here there were lots of grey areas, and one has to be mindful and respectful that everybody here is coming from a different level of observance. So that was quite an eye-opener, just to see just the different kind of shuls you could go to, and that was something pretty amazing.
What Jewish cultural traditions have you maintained here that you had at home?
We try and keep things as much as we can like we did in South Africa. My kids will still ask me, make me things like South African way. So fortunately there's a little South African shop up on Quate Road, and we frequent there when we can find things, and we've learned to adapt. We miss the food, and we try and keep our traditions pretty much the way we did things in South Africa. I've learned lots of new little things over here which we've incorporated into our everyday lives. And you just have to strike a balance.
Okay. What type of Zionist background do you have, or your family? How did they feel towards Israel?
Well, growing up in South Africa, it was very Zionistic. I mean, you belonged to Habonim or Beit Hab, Akiva. There's a very, very strong Zionist element. I went to Israel for the first time when I was about 21. And it was the time when Israel was at war with Lebanon, and that was my experience of Israel. I didn't even know there was a war going on. And then I never went back until 30 years later, and I just couldn't believe. I mean, I didn't recognize a thing from 30 years ago. So I am pretty Zionistic. We need our Jewish homeland.
Very good. Who has not come here that you would like to pick up and move and leave South Africa? Anybody left?
We have lots of friends who are still there. As I say, some of them are really handcuffed to their jobs and their families. Immigration is not for the faint of heart. It's really, really, really tough. I've seen it with other people. It's tough on marriages. It's tough on kids. We've had to make radical changes to our lifestyle, especially when you're living on South African money. It's worth nothing. Going home it's mind-boggling how expensive things are. So it's all very well to say to somebody that you need to come, but you don't really know what their circumstances are. It's not so easy just to pack up. Some people have health issues. In fact, there's somebody close to me who I would love for them to come and live here, but there are serious health issues in the family, and no one will accept them. So they're kind of stuck where they are.
And your own immediate or even a little bit extended family has
Yeah, it's an
mostly
extended-
moved.
yeah.
No, but have they moved?
Yeah,
They've
most of my family, they're all over the world. They're
wow.
just everywhere. I still have a father living in South Africa, but he's got to the point now where it's too hard for him to travel. So this is the hard part. So fortunately, I'm in an incredibly lucky position where my brothers and I, we share all the responsibility. Because that's another very big problem I've noticed, people that have immigrated, that there's always one kid that's left with all the responsibility. And I'm absolutely blessed to have two of the most incredible brothers who everybody shares the load.
You take turns
we
going
take
there.
it in turns and everything. So that kind of, it kind of eases the resentment that one kid is always left with the responsibility. And it's kind of helped us that, that we're united as far as that goes. That is probably the hardest thing ever, but my father sent us with his blessing. He said, please go, please go. We knew that we went with his blessing. He's been to visit several times, but traveling has just become just too hard for him now.
What do you think were some of the reasons he resisted leaving when he was a little bit younger, perhaps, and still able to travel? He just didn't want to move here, or was not up to it?
No, he has his life, his commitments in South Africa. He has absolutely no interest, and it's...
Okay.
You can't always, it just doesn't always work to bring your parents with you, yeah.
So now tell me if there's anything you can think of specifically that you miss about South Africa.
I miss some of my friends. I miss the community that we lived in. It's just because when I lived there for 42 years, so, it's who you are. It takes a long time to change and start all over again. The outdoors is something, Texas weather's pretty extreme, so we miss just being able to be somewhere in 2 hours or 3 hours. We miss things like going to the game reserve. That was our very big thing, going to the Kruger Park, 5-6 hours from the nearest beach, 2 hours from Johannesburg to Cape Town on the plane. It was just the mobility, I think, was a huge big factor. But this is my home and this is my family now, and I'm very grateful to all the people and my colleagues and that have just kind of accepted me as part of the team.
So if you have no regrets and you're glad you're here, I'm going to end with the same question I usually do, and that is, why? Why are you glad you're here?
I never in a million years thought in my wildest dreams I'd ever land up in America. I mean, anybody who lives out of America thinks that this is just the greatest thing. Everybody wants to go. The whole world is probably in awe of what's available in America. And I came here just with an idea of what it's been, but when you're a tourist and when you're living here, it's two incredibly different scenarios, and America is not what you see on TV. Especially when you live overseas and you're watching American programs. That took a little bit of getting used to. There's poverty, there's a lot of things here that are not pretty. And people have got to understand that. I've just had opportunities, especially through work and the connections I've made here, to do things in my life I never ever thought I would do. I've done a lot of traveling, just learning new things. Just when you live in South Africa, you kind of live the same life every day, and nothing much changes. And here you're just forced to do things differently, to learn things differently, to see things differently, and it's really opened my mind up to just so much around me. And I'm very, very grateful that America's giving me this opportunity.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Wonderful.